What's going on, guys? So today's video is definitely going to be an interesting video. Now, quick disclaimer, I am not a water quality expert. I am not a water quality engineer, technician, anything related to water quality. All I know is that what is in front of me is supposed to significantly improve the quality of water that goes in and comes out this end. So what we're going to do today is going to be a really interesting test, and I'm going to put this to the test in terms of water taste and water quality after we've passed some really nasty stuff through this filtering system. So hang tight, guys. I'll be right back. First of all, what are you looking at? Well, this is the new ClearSource Nomad water filtration system. I don't really want to call it a water purification system, but it's definitely a filtration system. Basically, it pulls water in and it pumps water out with an onboard electric pump, which is really cool. Now, this specific setup is really designed for use in, scenarios where you need to extract water from a pond, a river, or a lake. At least that's what they claim. And you need to pump it to a location where you need drinking water, or you need water that you can take a shower or bath or something with that's not going to harm you. Now again, this specific system is supposed to be able to pump water like 20 feet up into the system and then push it out through another hose into whatever container you plan on using it in, or whatever other scenario you could find yourself in that you need clean filtered water. Now, this specific system, in my opinion, is probably better for folks who are at an RV campground and they don't have water connections where they're at, or you're boondocking, you're dry camping, and you need to pump water out of something like this into your RV, because that's exactly what this can accomplish for you. You can refill your freshwater tank if you're in a scenario where you don't have water connections right next to your RV and you need to go get water, put it in a container like this, and then pump it into your freshwater or your city water connection of your RV. Now, of course, if it's a city water connection, you'd have to have a pretty big tank. So what I would recommend using this for is essentially pumping it into your fresh water tank, and then, essentially being able to boondock longer, because all you have to do is find a source to get water from, take it to your RV, and then use this to fill up your tanks. Now, this has two filters that are on board here, and then it has a strainer that is right here. And this is designed to take all the big nasty gunk out. But I have a feeling that strainer will become overwhelmed very quickly if you're trying to pump water out of a lake or something that's going to have, a lot of debris inside of it, and potentially, fish or other things that you might get into the system. So I don't know if I would rely on that for that type of application. Now, in terms of power, again, there is an electric pump on the actual system here. You can see right there. They say that they've tested it and it pulls around 12 amps. On the motor, it says 17 maximum amps if you're pulling it at 60 psi. You can see the water hose right here that attaches to your inlet line, and then this is going to be where the water comes out. Right above it is your power connection, and your power cables are essentially just some alligator clip style cables that plug right in. Plus, you have a 15 amp breaker right there, which will shut the system off if it detects some type of abnormal spike in current. Again, your pre-filter on the side is essentially a strainer, right? And you just have to be careful that can probably get pretty mucked up if you don't be careful what you're actually pulling water in from. If it's a lake or a creek, you're likely to overwhelm that thing pretty quickly. They're saying that filter life of these two filters is about every 2,000 gallons, which I think is going to make most sense for RVers. I mean, your typical water tank is going to be between 80 and 120 gallons, depending on the size of your rig. So you'd be able to fill it up multiple times with this system if you plan on filling it up to full. I don't think most people fill their freshwater tank all the way to full. Usually you want to keep it at about 75%. The other part too is you want to avoid keeping this in an area where it could freeze, simply because the water will expand in the pipes and can potentially damage it. So if you plan on keeping this in your RV, try to keep it in an area that is protected against freezing. If you keep it in your basement storage, make sure that you have, some type of a heat duct going into your basement storage. But that goes for pretty much anything that is going to carry or contain water in it. Next, a lot of folks would probably run this off of their house batteries in their RV. I'm going to use this little battery jump box down here to power it. Small lead acid battery would probably run it for a while as well, but just keep in mind that if you are running this off of a vehicle battery or off of a motorhome battery or even your RV battery, if you leave it running for a while, it will drain the battery and you might find yourself with a dead battery on your RV or your vehicle, so be very careful. But again, the whole point of this is to be able to refill your tanks, take a shower, hose off the kids, you know, pretty much any scenario where you need flowing water. But again, I really think the key behind this is being able to carry a couple of these containers in your RV, go to a spigot that might not be next to your RV, fill it up, and then pump it into your RV. I've filled up the tank about half full with fresh tap water, or water coming in from my outside spigot. And then I have another container over here. This holds about 2.5 gallons, I believe. And I have 2 water hoses down here. This one is a really nasty, ugly hose. And this one is a very clean freshwater hose. So we're going to connect this hose to the inlet connection here, feed water into it from this 5-gallon container, and we're going to pump it using the clean hose into this container, and we're going to see just how good of a job it filters. And I have a bottle of water here just in case I find a volunteer to come and want to taste the difference between it and the water coming out of this system. I might just do it myself. So let's move on to getting this water dirty. Okay, so I have hooked up the really nasty gunky hose right here to the inlet side. I have my clean hose right here going into that container. I have not turned this on yet. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna put some really ugly, nasty mud. I'll let you see it if you can. I'm gonna pour this, I just scooped this up from the backyard where it was really nasty, into that container. And I'm going to put the ugly hose into that container. I'm going to pump some out onto the ground just in case there's some residual, you know, rubberized taste or material left inside of this hose so it doesn't kind of spoil the project I'm trying to do. And we're going to see how things work out here. So first I need to add some nasty muck to this. And it is really, really muddy. I mean, it's pretty dirty. I'm going to get it all nice and diluted in there so I can pour it in really easily. And this is a pretty good representation of what you might pull out of a creek, I think. Might even be a couple of bugs inside of here. That's pretty nasty. Just remind you of anything? So yeah, that's pretty disgusting. I think that this is gonna represent dirty creek water pretty well. And you can see it is no longer the clear, pretty tap water that it once was. So next step I have to do is put the murky hose inside. So I have this ugly hose. It's so old that the backflow preventer is actually bonded to it, so I can't actually take that off. We're going to stick this side here like that. I don't have any kinks. It's an old hose, so that's very possible. Alright, so next I need to get some power on this thing. Okay, so I have the battery up top. Now I'm going to plug in their power leads that come with it. I think we're set up. We have the power and ground connected to the battery. I just need to turn the battery box on, and then we'll be ready to pump some of this water into the hose and feed it out to see what it looks like. Okay, it's pumping. Let's see what comes out this side. See if I can get over here so you can see that. Okay. Okay, so water's filling up this little reservoir. Might be slightly pinched here. See if that helps. Okay, so I'm going to do a little something different here. I cut the end of the hose off to make it a little shorter because I think the hose is just so old that it's having problems staying open. And you can see how it's kind of compressing the hose right here from the pressure. There we go. Now we should have water that pours out of here. Let's see what happens. There we go. So check that out. Get a little cup, fill it up. That's nasty. So the water coming into the cup's really nice. I was saying that's nasty because of what's going in here. Let me get you a closer shot of that real quick. Okay, so that's what's going into the system. From here. And I had bug land in here just now, but that's what's coming out of the system. That's pretty cool. Looks completely clean. Now we're going to pump some of the water into here and actually see what it tastes like, so you get a better idea. We'll pump quite a bit of it so you can get a really good interpretation of what something this nasty looks like when it fills up something like that. The problem that I'm having is it wants to compress the hose here. Okay, so I went and got a new nasty little drinking hose that's apparently in great supply around my house. Anyways, I got a new hose. That one's not going to collapse on me. Let's go ahead and start this again. It's going. I think we're at a point to where this filter is clogged and it's shutting off because of the suction here, so we probably need to clean that out. I'm going to go ahead and open up while it's full of gunk so we can take a look at what falls out. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. There's a rubber O-ring right here that might pop out whenever you take this off, so just be careful. Had to go look for it on the ground. If you don't have that, it's not going to seal up properly. Okay, so I think we have enough water in here now. Let's take a look at the results. So the container looks crystal clear compared to that down there. Let's see what the results are from a taste perspective. Again, water looks crystal clear. It tastes completely clean. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I could probably have somebody sample it. So let's see, hold on. Okay, so I've pulled my wife out here and she has absolutely no idea why I did, but I think she probably has an idea now. Hey, honey.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So that is the water that I pumped into this filter I told you about. This is the hose coming out, and my wife can attest to just how dirty and nasty this is. This is what I filled it with when I first set it all up. This is what it looks like. I mean, you can see there was actually an insect caught in the filter. He might still be there.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, so there's the water in the pre-filter. The water's pumped through, and I filled this container up with the water that comes out.
So that was filtered. That gross water.
That water
was filtered through that.
Correct.
And
pumped
this is what came out.
into that.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, this is a bottled water.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
I just making
Oh,
sure.
you saw it on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of these is bottled water and one of these is filtered water. So I do want you to like guess, but at the same time you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right here. But more so than anything, you might be able to figure out which one's which. But just tell me if you think they taste significantly different. And I'll start. So I'm going to drink one.
Okay, yeah, you be the first guinea pig.
And she can, just because I'm behind the camera, she has to, you know that I'm actually doing this. I drank both, right?
Okay.
To me, they taste pretty much the same.
Okay. So should I try it?
Go ahead.
Don't try to kill me, please.
I won't.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell?
I can't tell the difference.
Is that crazy?
I'm drinking mud water, but it's clean.
Yep. So the whole point of this is like if we go boondocking in the RV and we want to fill our fresh water tanks and you take like 3-hour showers and you drain all the fresh water, it's like, well, we have to refill the tank somehow. We can take a bottle like this down to the river or to a tap or wherever we can get to water, and then we can use this to filter it and pump it into the RV and refill our tanks.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Is it currently doing it right now? Because I see kind of
I have it off right now, but
Okay.
once you turn it on, it'll start pulling it in.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
at a pretty slow pace considering how murky the water is. And right now the filter keeps getting clogged because, I'm not kidding you, that is like really nasty water. I don't know if you can
Yeah.
tell on camera. So it's attempting to suck all that stuff up, and it's essentially filling this up with dirt the minute it starts pulling it in. And the pump shuts off and then keeps trying over again. But if I didn't have to deal with the nasty murky water here, it would be a constant flow. But that took about a minute to fill up to that level.
That's
And
not
that's, yeah, it's about a gallon. That's a 2.5 gallon container, and it added easily about a gallon to it.
Wow.
And I'm using a little jumper pack right here to power the whole thing. Pretty cool though, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for volunteering, risking your life.
Yeah. I was scared there for a minute.
All right, so guys, I'll put a link to this in the description of the channel. This is definitely something that I think can help a lot of folks who are out there and trying to figure a way how they can refill their tank without having to disconnect their RV, or not disconnect, but pack it all up, pull their slides in just to refill their water tank. Really cool way. And the key here is that the electric pump pumps it into your RV, because typically you can get water to your RV, but how do you get it inside of your RV without siphoning it? This is a really, really good alternative, and you can connect it to pretty much any 12-volt source. So that's really nice as well. I do not know the price. I think my guesstimation is, I'll just say it's under $1,000. So it is relatively expensive, but consider the fact that it has a pump built into it. It has a really nice ruggedized chassis around it. Plus it has 2 really high quality filters, and what it's accomplishing for you. I think it's actually closer to like $800, so significantly less than $1,000. Definitely still what I would consider to be a higher priced product, but it accomplishes a lot. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy this. My only recommendation would be to add another pre-filter, something in place just so it doesn't overwhelm this filter. So adding one of those little Camco cheap ones that doesn't really do anything, add that in a line, pump it in. You won't have to clean this out as much, you won't have to change these as often, and it'll actually be one extra step in purifying your water and just making this work as efficiently as possible. But that's my only suggestion for the folks over at ClearSource. I want to give a big shout out to them for providing this product to me for review and evaluation. Now here's a part everyone's going to want to know. What do the filters look like? I sprayed this one off a little with a hose, but then I stopped and realized you guys might want to see that. So this is actually the smaller micron or lower micron filter, and this is the higher one. So this is what everything goes through first, and this is what everything passes through after. And then finally it gives you your clean water on the inside. Kind of gives you a bit of an idea how clogged these things get with what I just filled it with. You can see inside the canister here. This one's a lot cleaner. It's kind of crazy. So I'm going to spray these things down, try to clean them off a little bit. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.